All right, we'll take questions now. If you have questions for any of our panelists, please raise your hand and we'll make sure to get a microphone to you. All right, I've got a couple to start us off while you guys are busy getting yours ready. PJ, so how do you guys manage lightweight pigs in your protocols? Do you change the amount of colostrum you give them if they're too light, or how do you guys kind of manage those?
Without giving rid of all of our secrets, Dr. Turner, he's probably pretty proud of me for saying that. How to say this? So our protocols are built around, we put extra labor into that, so we will for 3 days manage them a little bit differently, and we know we're putting labor into them, but we're saving some of that. Abigail, again, we'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow on the back end, because those are pigs that we normally, if you took some of our, maybe some of our older contract growers, they would look at those pigs and say, well, we would move them later anyway, and later was too late. So we save that labor by moving them early and do some intervention around those 3 days of some stuff, some magic stuff that happens. Right, Denny? Where's Denny? Some magic. Yeah, that's about as far as I'll go with that. But anyway, that's a good question.
All right, very good. All right. Any questions from the audience? Right down here, if we can get a microphone over there.
My question's for Fred. I warned you on this. So Fred, with implementing new technology on your farms with a variety of skills in your workforce, what have been some of the keys to doing that most successfully?
Making sure you got everything translated. Making sure your protocols are all cross-done. Again, the nice thing about pig flow is you can transfer it into any language.
This is for PJ. I'm just curious, you mentioned the use of AI for things like back office, writing of SOPs and whatever. Do you have an estimate of how much labor savings you've seen or would expect to see?
Yeah, it's a good question. Some of that we've put in place for a whole FTE. So in other words, maybe from a production standpoint, that's above the sow level. So it would be a service person or a field manager. So we found that, can we replace that level with this technology? Because the one thing we found is it's not wrong, so there's that. And number two, do we need somebody to tell us what the AI is telling us? So we've been able to do that. I'll say that's only in 25,000 sows of our entire system, but the early returns are really nice on that. So we'll see where we go with that, but too early to tell a little bit.
I have a question for Ms. Bettin. So as an employee, I've seen good managers, bad managers, all in between. Is there anything we can do as an employee to kind of nudge some underperforming managers in the right direction?
Well, I would hope you'd be able to have some communication with the people above. That is a difficult one. That's why, the surveys and suggestion boxes and things can be helpful if people don't want to actually, confront or be that person that's being the whistleblower. But maybe try sitting down and talking with that manager, as an employee. It's tough. I get that. Even as high up as you go, you run into that all the way. But yeah, that's a really good question.
Right there. Okay, yep, right up front.
This question is for not just PJ, but I apologize, I walked in a little late, but one of the first things I heard you talk about was leading indicators. And I think perhaps you and others are familiar with Chris McChesney's 4 disciplines of execution and how to make sure we're running our businesses through the windshield and not the rearview mirror, meaning most of our metrics on closeouts and performance are historical metrics, but how do you identify leading indicators in your production system, and are there some areas of production system where you're still struggling trying to find those right lead indicators to put up on the scoreboard for your people to be, focusing on? And this might be a question Fred or anybody could answer.
How long do I got, Dr. DeRushi? No, that is a very good question. And actually, Anderson, 2 weeks ago at our company meeting, Dr. Turner, 80% of it was built around building our leading indicator. So we brought everybody together because, not to get too much into the weeds, but I went to a contract farm down at one of our worst farms down in Arkansas, and we wrote on the wall what makes things happen for fair rate, because we were struggling there. So we listed, hey, you need X amount of bores, you need a specialist here, you need body condition. And as we wrote those down, there were 5 things. I went to erase it, and the grower said, don't erase that. He goes, that's going to work. So those 5 things have gone into our first one. We got it right. And again, we sat down with our entire leadership group just 2 weeks ago. It's like, were you there by any chance? Okay. To go over those, to look at those things that we're looking at, like sow death loss coming out of Dr. Rademacher's talk. It's like, hey, how can we replicate this? To, again, change the things today, because we talk PSY, that's gone. That's old data. But what can we do today? Can we handle semen? We say perfectly. Can we get our body condition, like Dr. Turner challenged me was, because I was like, hey, we need 80%. He goes, just do the damn SOP. And if we can do that, we're there. So we're getting there, and we're going to see how those tools work. Because it's being done right now, so I can appreciate that. And that's a very book that we read. So, Hyatt, what do you got on that? Dr. DeRushi, hurry up.
I was just going to say, on the pen gestation side of things, since we have the daily data at our fingertips, I'd say one of the things that we try to encourage people to do is do housekeeping each day. As far as don't let cleaning up your data or looking at your data get pushed back multiple days. If you stay on that each day, you're going to probably stay ahead of that, and that's, we're at a day level instead of a historical level then. And so something as simple as what percentage of your sows are eating, it's probably not going to be 100, but if we can get to 98, 99, probably a lot of the other stuff's just going to go good by proxy.
Yeah, and Hyatt taught us some of those things in there, and we've actually gone into some of our farms, set it and locked that so they can't change it, and then things got better. They're like, we don't know why, but things got better. So it's one of those things we're, again, looking at from an ESF standpoint.
One example that we have, so we've just changed from PSY to pounds weaned per farrowing crate. So we look at the driver that's going to fit the company, right? Going to fit the system. All the other things still feed into there, but now we're getting the weaned pig we need.
All right, any other questions? All right, if not, let's thank our speakers again for their presentation.